Hi, everyone, and welcome to our live session today, Putting the Fun in Functional Meetings. You're in for a treat with a title like that, right? My name is Jennifer Clark. I'm a customer education manager here at Miro, and I am joined today by the lovely Shipra Kayan. She's the head of workshops design, and we were actually having a conversation the other day about, I think everybody at this point knows how to do a remote meeting in Zoom, but or any other kind of service that you're using. But some of us are a little fatigued by everything looking and feeling the same way every time. And so Shipper and I had this really great conversation about, how can we make meetings, more fun? How do we bring that in-person energy to the space? I mean, I'm a total ham, so I really rely on jokes, like bad jokes and physical comedy, to keep things exciting in like an office space. But how do we do that in a remote meeting? And so we had a great conversation. We wanted to come online and share some of that with you and also demonstrate some cool Miro features to make that possible. So Shipra, thank you for joining me today for this conversation. I'm really excited.
So fun to be here with you.
I'd love for you to, if you could please share just a little bit about yourself and your experience with hosting workshops, remote and in person, with the listeners today.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a design leader in Silicon Valley for 20 years, which came with hosting a lot of design workshops, design studios, both in person, hybrid, and remote. And as I noticed sort of this trend where companies were going remote more and more, especially startups who like just were hiring talent wherever they could find them, eh, there was this sort of a chasm where people at headquarters had all the ideas and their ideas were being heard, whereas people in different parts of the US or the world couldn't get their ideas heard as effectively. So that's what got me started on my journey, facilitating workshops to bridge and remote workshops to bridge sort of that gap. And for the last couple of years, I've run my own practice facilitating workshops, everything from startups to Apple and Microsoft.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to connect with you about this because, like, to me, you've just had so many experiences with like so many different groups, tackling so many different types of problems, like from the very practical, like, how do we ship this product to like maybe some cultural questions are emerging during the conversation. And it's like, how do you handle those as well? Thanks again for joining me today for this conversation. I'm really excited. So, when we were talking, you really impressed upon me the importance in a remote meeting or workshop about starting on a positive note. Could you share a little bit more about why you think this is a best practice and maybe an example of what that looked like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so many times when we're doing remote meetings, we come into it under time pressure and we feel like we have to get to the work and get to the agenda. And I think it's like absolutely important to start and give people space to enter a room, leave what they were doing behind, and get into a mindset, get into a frame of mind that you want them to be in. And for me, that's always sort of trying to get to a positive state of mind. So I think very, very deeply and carefully about any icebreakers. One example is from a recent I joined Miro a couple of months ago and just started working with my new team. And I realized we were in all these meetings trying to like get through our tasks. So I created this icebreaker called the love bomb, where we came together and spent 5 minutes just writing what we like or appreciate about each other, and just reading what other people appreciate about you after you've written it. And that just created this atmosphere of we're not here just for transactional task-based conversations. We're here as a team, which is really hard to do during COVID.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I remember you telling me about this love bomb activity that you led your team through, and we actually have an image to show everybody today, just so you can see what it looks
Yeah,
like.
that's it.
So cute. So yeah, Shipper, could you just orient everyone to kind of how it works in Miro, like how you make it happen?
Yeah, totally. So I put everyone on the team, I just grabbed their picture from like their Google accounts, put them around in a circle, and then added empty stickies around in a circle. And then when we came into the room, I turned on the timer in Miro with music background, kind of like a smooth groove music. And everybody was writing everyone in the room just went around and wrote one thing that they appreciated about each person. Uh, and it's just like a moment to think about gratitude and appreciation. What was the most magical part was later on when we were rereading them, and then we kept resharing the board on Slack and just being like, hey, you guys, like, this is such an awesome team. Yeah, that's the story.
Awesome. It seems like it helped, of course, break the ice for the meeting, but also gave everyone like that warmth that maybe some of us could be missing right now or looking for, which is really great.
Yeah.
I know that during our conversation too, we also talked about another template in the Miro verse, or in the template library in Miro, called the emotions wheel. If you could just share a little bit more about why an icebreaker like this could be like really helpful or effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So something like this I would use, or I have used, when we have sort of a larger team. So kind of, let's say 20 or 25 people in a meeting. And it's just like a moment for everyone. You're asking people to self-reflect. So it's a moment for everyone to just take a step back. You're asking them, how do you feel today? Take a dot and put it on the wheel. And just that act of seeing where everyone puts their dots gives you this kind of palpable feeling of like, this is the energy in the room, and it just makes the room come alive, versus, just seeing a grid of squares. You're now seeing something deeper.
Right. It also seems like it could give people an opportunity to maybe give a signal or a share about how they're feeling, even if maybe coming off mic or like talking in person is a little intimidating at first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all start all these conversations with, hey, how are you doing? And, kind of, it's hard to do that with a large group. So this is a way, to express.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling extravagant today. That's the word that I picked up on this board. So.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. So something else you had mentioned during our conversation that we really wanted to share with you all listening live today is to encourage contribution through interactive activities. Now, Shipra, could you share a little bit more about why this is important to creating a fun, interactive, like high engagement meeting, and maybe some tips or tricks about how you could bring that to life?
Yeah. Talking is not the most efficient way of communication. First of all, we speak at like 125 words a minute, but we can process information much faster at 400, 500, 600 words a minute. So when we're in the Zoom call and people are talking, like, you have to kind of wait to hear everyone and understand what they're trying to say. Interactive activities are activities where you ask everyone to write together or sketch together. So you might say, hey, what are some ideas to increase growth? And like, just have everyone quietly write down ideas, put them up on a whiteboard, a Miro board virtually, and then everyone can read each other's ideas too. And then the whole kind of thing can happen with 10 people in 10 minutes instead of waiting for each person to like talk through their thoughts. It's really much more inclusive as well. You want to give people different modalities to express themselves. Not everyone wants to press unmute. I definitely have had experiences where someone more junior on the team or someone newer to the team might be a little bit more shy to press and mute and say what they want to say. But when you ask people to write it down, you get some of these like really important messages out.
Yeah. And that seems really powerful, just as you mentioned, for maybe someone who's a little intimidated at first and wants a way to share, but doesn't exactly know how to verbally, or maybe that's not their preferred way of sharing. McCall is manning the chat today, is supervising the chat. And I just wanted to remind her to share. We actually have a webinar coming up this week, in fact, on this very topic. How do you involve many people in a brainstorm, even if they want to contribute or share in like different ways? So you're seeing a little sneak peek of that with Jenny reacting on the board. But yeah, hopefully you all would be interested in some very practical skill building around some of that with Miro. Well, great. Shipra, you also mentioned like a really key part of bringing fun into functional meetings and to making workshops more interactive is to finish strong. Could you define what you mean by this for our audience listening today?
Yeah, People really walk out of meetings with energy when they know what the conclusion was, right? And so, as a meeting organizer and facilitator, that's the best gift I think you can give your meeting attendees. Just like you're thinking about how do I want to start, how do I want people to feel in the beginning, you got to think about how do I want people to feel at the end. For me, it's always about a very, very strong conclusion. We believe XYZ, we're going to do whatever. So a decision was made, misalignments were identified and resolved. Uh, just any way to have a very, very strong conclusion at the end is super important.
Yeah, that seems really helpful. I know that I've walked out of a workshop before feeling like, wow, that was really great. I learned a lot. I feel connected. But then you have that now what moment
Yeah,
where you're not really
yeah,
sure how do you connect that like very practically or meaningfully to like your work the next day or like later that day.
yeah,
Do you maybe have an example of when that worked well? When you
yeah,
nailed it or when your group nailed it, your team nailed it, perhaps in a
yeah.
workshop?
Yeah, I mean, even kind of one of the best examples I have of this is even when yeah, we did this sort of workshop and we came to a conclusion. And for me, the nagging feeling was like, the question I had was like, wait, should we be doing this again? Like, was this a successful method for us? And I just asked people in the room actually to use the Miro reactions, which you might show later, to use the Miro reactions and just do a heart if they liked it and they want to do this again, or a fire if they didn't. And just seeing that like moment of, well, what should we do next? And it was like all hearts. And then it was very clear, all right, we're going to do this again, and we're going to do this on a monthly basis. So
Right.
having kind of that ending moment of like, this is what we're going to do next is super important. And that's exactly, yeah, that's what we did. It
Yeah.
was full of hearts.
Jenny's showing you all a little sneak peek of what we're talking about with bringing that energy to life in that space. Sure, but that's very helpful and practical. Thank you. It just seems like a really easy way to do a vibe check is a really
Mhm.
powerful way to finish strong to make
Yeah,
sure we're all leaving kind of on the same page.
yeah.
So that seems like a really great piece of advice, and I'll take that back with me for sure. All right, so we all wanted to show you a little bit more who are following along, and I'll kind of take the controls, and Shipra and I will show you a little bit more about what we mean in terms of practically creating some of these fun or functional or engaging or like ways to emotionally or intellectually connect with people in Miro, and specifically talk about a few features. I'm going to show you how to do them from start to finish, and you can implement them in your next meeting. So like later today, if you want to implement some of these, I think they would be really helpful and effective for you. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Awesome. Yeah, so there are 4 quick features, quick tools and skills that I wanted to demonstrate for you today to make sure everybody was on the same page. So one of the first pieces of advice that Shipra gave us today was to like not skip over the icebreaker in favor of like getting down to business too quickly. You really need that moment to find connection. And we got to see a little bit more about her particular template, the love bomb, where we're able to kind of drop in the team's pictures and share, lovely thoughts and comments and positive feedback and really like gas people up, before we start talking. I wanted to show everyone how to access that and maybe use it for your team, perhaps. So when you've got a Miro board open, you're going to go to the left-hand side to the object menu. It's that strip on the left-hand side if you're not familiar. And you're going to go down to the templates section. So it looks like these squares and rectangles kind of join together. When I click on templates, you're able to select from any of the templates that we have on offer here at Miro, some that we've built internally, and then some from our Miroverse, which is our community sourced template library. Tons of really great options for setting up your next workshop. It's a way for you to not start from scratch every time, to really get some stuff out on the board. And I wanted to show you, if you actually wanted to go to find Shipra's template specifically for the love bomb or the emotion wheel that we showed you earlier, you're going to click on this button right here that says go to Miroverse. That's going to open a fresh tab. I'll show you all what that looks like. Open a fresh tab, and this is where you're able to search for different Miroverse templates. And if you type in love bomb, you can see Shipra's option right here for you, which is really exciting.
Yay.
Yay. You're famous,
Yay.
Shipra. You're in the
I
library.
know. It happened so fast.
That's awesome. So Miroverse, really great place to get icebreakers. I have used a couple in my experience with workshops that have been really fun. I really encourage everyone to try the Monster workshop as well. That is a delightful one. We actually show you what that looks like start to finish in the brainstorm webinar. Hopefully you all can join us for that. We also wanted to show you reacting with emojis on the board. So a way to kind of give an immediate pulse, an immediate vibe for an idea, or maybe you really love a wireframe someone built, or a drawing that someone dropped onto the board. You're really loving that format, you're loving that concept, and maybe using emojis to deepen the conversation and sharing how you're feeling about some of the ideas being generated. So we wanted to show you 2 ways to do that. First things first, did you know that you can actually, Shipra, did you know this? You can actually react to sticky notes with emojis.
Sure we have.
Yeah, let me show you. So if I like zoom into this particular sticky note for Miroverse and I click on it, a menu will appear just above the sticky note. And if you just scroll up here and you go to the smiley face that you see that says add emoji, and I go ahead and add that one, I can react, with any of these, kind of fantastic, beautiful emojis. So like, let's say I really love an idea. I can scroll down to the hearts and just say, yeah, I love that idea. So not only can I react to an idea on a sticky note, which is really easy and cool, you can actually hover over it and see who liked it. So that's like a cool new thing you might try. Another way you can bring emojis onto the board to kind of react to ideas is to go to the object menu again, left-hand side. You're going to click on those 3 dots to access our apps and integrations. And if you just scroll down, or you can also type it into the search bar up here, you'll find emojis here in the menu. And if you click on emojis, again, the same menu will pop up, and you can, maybe drag one over to react to a certain idea. So maybe Shipra, maybe throw a couple on there too. Yeah. So, we can throw a couple of emojis on there and show people how we're feeling, how we're reacting to an idea. So this is another way to add a layer of texture, a layer of fun into your next remote meeting or workshop. 2 newer things that we wanted to show you as well that we just recently released here at Miro are improvements to our timer. Now, Shipra, you mentioned the timer is something that you use a lot. How critical do you think it is to time box activities and to use the timer in a workshop or meeting?
Absolutely critical. I think we want to, especially I use timers, especially when we're doing solo heads down time, because we can take forever to sketch ideas or write ideas. But if you time box it to 5 minutes, you still get 80% of the best ideas, out there.
Exactly. So for those of you who haven't tried out our timer, maybe you haven't seen this yet, you just go to the lower left-hand corner. Looks like a little stopwatch in this menu down here. It says timer. When I click on the timer, it automatically defaults to 5 minutes, but I can adjust that time any way I want. I can give people, okay, let's do 60 seconds, 1 minute, and we're going to come up with ideas, or maybe we'll take a little bit longer and come up with some ideas. And one of the things that we added was your ability to put a soundtrack to it all. So if you click on pick music, we've got a few different options and you can actually preview what it sounds like. You know what I mean? Shipra, which one's your favorite? Which one have you used so far in your workshops?
I always go to Smooth Groove.
Okay, let's play it for
I think, let's do it.
All right, yeah. So you can chug along with this one and really get it going. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So as you all can see, the timer's clicking down, the music is playing, the music will be playing for everyone who's on the board with you, the timer will be ticking down for everyone, and you as the person who set up the timer can add a minute if you need to, maybe people need a little bit more time. These are convenient ways to kind of be the facilitator in control of managing the time and the mood during a brainstorm, for example.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and stop that and get it out of the way. Okay, so timer, maybe something that you all try next time you have a remote meeting. And then last but not least, we wanted to show you a newer feature called reactions. You've already seen a little sneak peek with Jenny reacting to some of our comments so far. So let's just see, if you go up to the upper right-hand corner, You're going to drift left from the share box past the avatars to this smiley face with the plus button in the bottom right-hand corner. That's our reaction feature. And if I click it open, we see a couple of things. So we're able to, for example, react. You can click as many times as you want. So you can really spam the board with a lot of love if you want. My favorite is the confetti because it adds that layer of glitter and confetti to the space. So if we're, for example, celebrating the launch of a new feature, or someone's welcome to the team, or someone's being promoted, these are all great ways to bring that energy and that vibe to the moment and to the space. Shipra, which one's your favorite?
Oh, of course, the confetti, but I think I use the heart the most.
Oh yeah. I find that the confetti is my favorite too. It's got that extra layer of glitter, which I deeply appreciate. Yeah. One thing we wanted to show you also as a really helpful tool for facilitators is the raise hand feature below the reaction. So say, Shipra and I are in a workshop or in a meeting, and she's working, kind of personally on something and needs a little help, needs a little direction. She can actually raise her hand. You can do so right here by clicking raise or lower hand. And if I go click on the raised hands, I can see who needs help and go directly to them, have Shipra come off mute, and we talk about her question or her issue. So it's a really easy way on a Miro board to locate immediately who needs help, and how can I, as the facilitator or the meeting leader, provide that and offer that help. That's awesome. Okay, great. So we really encourage you all to use these 4 very practical techniques. And maybe in a meeting later today, you find a way to bring in an activity from Miroverse, or have your team react to, like maybe the next idea that you're working on, maybe something that you're working on next week. Maybe you use the timer to time box, like Shipra said, maybe a brainstorm to really kind of corral the best ideas and get them out as quickly as you can. So with that, we just wanted to really encourage you to focus on some really cool, practical tools. And with that, I just wanted to say, I know we have a few minutes left, so we are going to take live questions, but Shipra, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your expertise and advice with us today, and for being so generous with your time, and sharing your pro tips with us.
Oh my gosh, sure. Thanks for having me.
I know I'm going to take some of those back. As someone who leads webinars every week, I'm gonna take some of those back and make sure that I use them too. So thank you. So for those who are listening on the live right now, we're going to take some live questions. McCall is going to kind of triage those questions and get them to us and enter them into our chat. We'll read them out live and try to answer them live. If it's a best practice, Shipra's going to take it away. If it's a demo, I'll try to do my best to demonstrate or show you how to make something happen on a Miro board. While we're waiting for your lovely questions, we've got a few questions coming through, so let's just try to get to as many as we can. Shipra, what's your advice for beginners? Do you have any top tips for someone who's just starting facilitating or organizing a workshop in a place like Miro?
Try one thing, start with one thing, and just start with stickies. Just start with, here's my idea, I need feedback, and try and get feedback and stickies instead of verbally. And you'll kind of experience the richness of the information that you gather versus when it's just verbal. So just try one thing, one brainstorm or one set of feedback. It doesn't have to be all of these things together.
Right. I love that idea. It's really also easy kind of entry, just try one thing, implement one thing we taught you today. And that's a good place to start. Someone asks, how do you set up your board for a workshop? I can help with that one very briefly. If we're on a Miro board right now, 2 things I'd encourage that you use to make maybe your next meeting or workshop more simple. The first thing that I would do is use frames. You can find them here in the object menu, left-hand side. It looks like a square with the lines going past each corner. Shipra's giving me the thumbs up because she agrees. This is like a blank page in your notebook. This is a great place to harness ideas, corral thoughts, put activities. It makes it easier for people to find it on the board. It also makes it easy to move it around if you need to organize anything again. So I just wanted to encourage that. You can change the color of that frame, really make it stand out. One other tip I'd show you for setting up a board really effectively for workshops or meetings is our stickies pack. It's my most used template building block. If you go to the template library one more time and go to building blocks. Stickies pack is like front and center. I use this every time. It's a quick way to get a bunch of stickies on a board in all different colors. And now people can start brainstorming. And I did that in 60 seconds or less, right? So two top tips for me to set up your board successfully. All right, we got a lot more questions coming in. Let's try to get to as many as possible. Any tips on using icebreakers with an international team where not everyone appreciates chit chat? Shipra, what advice would you give?
Yeah, there is this feeling of, oh, not another icebreaker. I don't want to chit chat. Icebreakers don't have to be two truths and a lie and tell me something personal if that feels like out of context in an international setting. So I did this workshop with sports. I can't tell you who, but like it was a big sports academy in Asia, and the icebreaker I used was having everyone upload a picture of their favorite sports person and talk about why they were their favorite sports person. It was also relevant to the content because we were working on a tool like that was related to sports. But everyone lit up, like everyone has a favorite sports person and they know why. So I'm not asking them what's your hobby or what's like your kid's name,
Right.
or whatever, if that feels too uncomfortable.
Sure. So it seems like the two top tips is lean in, it'll probably be fine. and two, like make it relevant to the workshop, and then you probably will get more value out of that. That's great. Okay, we have time for one last question, and I really want to answer this one from Chemo because it seems really like good and spicy a bit. Any advice on keeping the energy of a group up even when dealing with conflict or disagreement productively? Shipra, what advice would you give on that topic? Such a great question.
Yeah, just having a moment to say that, hey, first of all, open it out. Like, don't close up conflict. That leads to really, really terrible consequences later on. Open it up, have everyone say their note, and just try to bring one thing that I always say is, listen, if two reasonable people disagree, it's because we have different underlying assumptions. So our goal in this meeting is to get to what are the underlying assumptions? Why are we thinking differently? And then we can kind of find the right question to answer in there. So just, I think as a meeting facilitator, you can have a really big impact on it if you have a positive attitude and just bring this way of like, listen, this is really interesting. We're uncovering something really important.
Right. I love that. Being the facilitator who's not afraid. And it's okay for conflict to happen. And that it seems like that positive energy, you can see that end goal, we will make it through. Like,
Yes.
that there's something positive here is like the key to helping like usher people through that maybe uncomfortable moment that they're experiencing. That's so great. Well, Shipra, thank you for joining me today. And thank you all for joining us live to talk about putting the fun back in functional meetings and maybe some pro tips on how to make these more successful. We loved your engagement and your questions. Hopefully you got something useful or practical out of today's session. And with that, we wish you all a very lovely rest of the day, wherever you are in the world. Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon. And we'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.